full curriculum. I want to showcase different financial systems. This way you begin to understand that when God has created a parallel system for us as children of God, those who are formed, those who are called as the beloved, those who have accepted the Lord Jesus Christ, and you can rightfully say that Jesus is Lord and God is your God. Those of us who are members of the kingdom of God, we have a parallel financial system, but most of us tend to operate within the existing and well-established financial systems. However, every system is created to look after its own kind. Let us give you a very simple example. When you look on our presentation here, you can see the education system. The education system requires that you start off your education career or your education trajectory from the primary level. You graduate from primary, you move into the secondary level. From secondary, you move to the tertiary, where you now acquire a university or a degree of some sort at the tertiary level. Sometimes you can acquire multiple tertiary degrees or a master's degree, and the final level is the PhD level, where you acquire yourself a doctorate. Now, the education system is always limited to how far you have accomplished in your education career. The first one is, if you only end up being educated at the primary level, anytime you get a job, there is a limit to how much you will ever be paid. You will be paid at the level of minimum wage. Okay. Then some people who have progress to the secondary level. Well, the secondary level allows you to move on to another level. Maybe in a job environment, you're given a supervisory position or a supervisory role. Then the third level is the tertiary. There is a basic entry level income for anyone who has a tertiary degree. And you'll find out that when human resources are selecting, when the talents organizations are in their selection process, they pay virtually at that same level. Is that okay? Now, there is a limit. But those who are able to come in at a master's degree level, they are secured, they are selected for positions of management positions. However, even if you've reached your limits, those who are acquired doctorate degrees, who are at the level of PhD, they even have access to additional funds, not just the income that they make as based on their job specification, but because of their area of expertise, they are able to acquire additional funds that will come in as grants or as finance funds for projects where where their expertise and their niche area is required. And so you'll see, wherever you are, if all you operate with is the educational financial system, you will end up at a lead at some point in time. Then the second system that I can give to us as an example is the Jewish system. In the Jewish system, you see that the Jews usually will require for an organization or an individual to patronize a fellow Jew. That's the financial Jewish system. So they like to patronize one another, and they make sure that the cash circulation within the Jewish system is repeated over and over and over again before it is allowed to leave the Jewish financial system. I've heard in the past that it can circulate as many times as 6 times before it's allowed to be released into additional other communities. And then the final thing about the Jewish system that I discovered is also their power for partnerships. They operate in partnerships. And hence, when you're trying to do business or do a deal or negotiations with one partner, no matter how much progress you have made, they always leave room for a second partner to come up and reevaluate your conclusions. So before you can actually say this is done and dusted, you have to go through the second partner. Now that is their financial system. That's how they operate. And hence, when you are in the market and you want to compete, you do not need to compete with someone in another financial system when that system was not created to look after your type. A third example is the Muslim financial system. Within the Muslim commercial community, you will tend to find out that they patronize one another. They tend to make sure that when a product has to be sold or bought in the retail market, it has to be bought from them. And if you've approached them and they don't have the product, they will go out of their way to locate a second person within the same community who is able to provide the goods or the services. The second thing that they have as an advantage as a community is their 0% interest. In the Muslim financial system, you do not pay interest. However, anyone who is competing with someone in that system has to loan money at a minimum rate of 3% and above. Maybe in the UK the rates are very low, which is good, but so will the economy will balance out. In the US the rates are higher. In South Africa, the rates are already going through the roof. By the time we get to African nations like Nigeria, we're talking double digits for your loans. So we are talking about you already being disadvantaged from the get-go. All right? Then we now have to understand very clearly that with God, he has a parallel system, and that parallel system has to work for those he has called to be his children. Okay, so that's just the intro that I have to say, because if you don't understand that basic fundamental of the difference between the kingdom system and the system, every financial system that is created, you will not understand the value of the entire package of God's economy. Okay.